Hi, my name's Leslie Dahan, and tonight I want to talk about the issue that I'm experiencing at Banner Health with the IT departments and the quality of management. So, the issue that is present right now is that there's been a pretty constant change in the leadership structure of the IT departments at Banner Health over the last few years. And the ramifications of those changes are there's a lot of people who are experiencing role conflict, role clarity issues. There's a lack of resources, and it's causing a major delay in the service that we provide to our customers. So ultimately, anytime there's a shift in leadership, it also impacts the teams, of course, that those leaders are over. And then there becomes this question of who does what, who does what tasks, what teams do different roles, how are things divvied up, but then how do we all interconnect with each other too? Because in IT, all of the different departments are all intertwined in some way or another. So as an example, if you have a new clinic that's opening, you have IT teams who are working on getting people access to our systems. And with that comes like cybersecurity. You have people who are building out their locations in our systems, like in our EMRs, for example. You have people who are building rules for e prescriptions and ordering things inside the EMR. You have people who are working in digital business, who are looking at ways of digitizing information, reporting, all these different areas. And so essentially, any change that's going on in IT is going to impact every department in some way, some more than others, right? So you look at it and you say, okay, well, a particular change may have a small impact on one IT department and a very large impact on another IT department, but ultimately, every department can be affected. And right now, there's been so many changes in the leadership organization structure and the teams that fall underneath those people that there's a lot of confusion about who's really supposed to do what, the different tasks, the different departments. One department might think that they can make a change, not realizing the impact that it has on another department. We have requests that are being put in by customers that are taking several weeks to complete when they shouldn't. And right now, with the COVID-19 pandemic, it's creating an extra layer of frustration because some of those requests are needed to be done very quickly, and they're having a hard time getting those requests completed in a timely manner because there is so much confusion about who's supposed to be doing what. If they don't create a stable leadership environment and freeze it, right? Stick with it and work out all of the nuances that come with that change, then there's going to continue to be this confusion, this role conflict, and the lack of resources and the frustration that the IT employees are feeling and also that the customers are feeling. So the way the structure is we have a chief information officer, a CIO, and there are 15 people who report directly to the CIO. Those 15 people are made up of VPs, vice presidents of different areas, and then also you have IT directors who are reporting. Underneath the VPs and the IT directors are another layer of directors. And then underneath those directors, you then have a plethora of roles just depending on the team that you are looking at. So it is a hierarchical structure, which in some ways is nice because you do know and you can see who reports to who and what that chain looks like, that chain of command. So that can be a little bit of a benefit when you're trying to figure out at least who's on what team. Um, the struggle is really being able to identify what each team does and what each type of role does within that team and how they all intertwine with each other. Um, Banner Health has been trying to promote a culture of servant leadership. Um, Not all the leaders embrace servant leadership. So there is a little bit of a disconnect between some of the leaders using, servant leadership and others not. Um, it does create some issues also in the IT departments because you have some leaders who care very much about impact on employees and doing everything they can to minimize the negative impact of organizational restructuring on the employees. But the leaders above them, who are the ones instituting the change, don't necessarily have the same mindset. So they'll make the changes. They might even tell you that it's coming, but then not plan it out enough so that when the change happens, things are smooth and everybody kind of knows what all is going to be changing with that. So, not everybody has that same type of mentality. And when it comes to conscious culture management, um, Banner IT has a sense of a higher purpose. I will say that. They do care a lot about taking good care of their customers and the patients that, ultimately the customers are taken care of. So I will say that, they do have kind of that higher purpose in mind. For the other parts of conscious capitalism, though, the stakeholder involvement, the conscious leadership, and the conscious culture, I don't think they necessarily embody the values for those aspects of conscious capitalism. If you think about, being a conscious leader and creating a conscious culture and thinking about the impact on all the stakeholders, when you're looking at making a large organizational change and realizing that it's going to impact the teams that are underneath those leaders, um, you want to have a plan in place to try and minimize the impact, at least the negative impact, right? Sometimes, reorging or reorganizing or restructuring leaders is a positive thing, but you have to be prepared, right? And you have to be able to guide employees through that change, working directly with them on what needs to happen in order to allow them to be successful. So I do think that, when it comes to conscious capitalism, they're missing the bar in some of those areas. If they did a better job of, preparing people, making sure that there was a plan in place before those changes happened, or had leaders who had time to dedicate to working with their employees through those changes, then that would probably be a different story. So, as far as the plan for improvement goes, for the creating a sense of urgency, the opportunity statement that I came up with is having a stable leadership structure for the IT departments at Banner Health is critical to the success of the IT employees and the organization. And then for building a guiding coalition, this is really important to build a coalition because one person, especially in a very, very large organization like Banner Health, one person would not be able to institute this change by themselves. It's going to take many people, leaders, employees who are working together to create this culture and create this stable environment where people are thriving and being successful and ironing out kinks together. Um, the strategic vision that I came up with is reduce leadership changes, helping to create a conscious culture and enabling employees to take the best care of our customers. Because ultimately, I think that that is our goal. Is number one, we do want to create a conscious culture, and we do want to enable employees to take really good care of their customers. Right now, there's a desire to take care of the customers, but there's all this confusion and chaos that's preventing people from doing so. The initiative would be to reduce organizational leadership shift from once per year to once every 3 years, and to put together a plan of actions that need to take place prior to those changes so employees feel supported. So, if an organizational change is needed, let's come up with some guidelines about what actions need to take place in order to minimize the negative impact for employees. Um, the barriers that are are in place are people. So when it comes to making organizational restructure changes, those are decisions that are made by people, by other leaders, by higher up leaders. So you can't just get rid of the higher up leaders, but if the company has buy-in, if there's people who are in this coalition, other leaders, employees, the company would have a hard time refuting the fact that people want this. They want stability, they want structure, and also, they can see the benefits of having the stability and the structure. More positive outcomes, happier people. So, as far as removing barriers go, it's just going to be a matter of working with the leaders to get them to see the light and see the benefits of having a stable leadership structure. Some short term wins would be, of course, just retaining our leaders in the same positions, but then also recognizing, the accomplishments. So getting a faster turnaround time on the requests, having role clarity in the different teams, maybe, getting to know the different departments so that people have an understanding of what they do impacts another team, so that we're making sure that we involve all the right people in the conversations and we just have better success for our customers. And then seeing that increase in the efficiency and the success, that's what's going to sustain that momentum and keep us moving towards that goal of having that real strong and secure leadership structure. The more the company sees that, this is a good thing, and they're not going to want to change it. They're going to want to keep everybody in the same position, like a well oiled machine. People are going to know what they need to do, and they're just going to do it. So that's ultimately going to create that momentum and keep people working towards this goal. And once they see that success, that's ultimately how the change is going to be able to be made. Now, there's a couple challenges that could come up. One of them being you may have leaders who don't support the change. The other challenge that could come up is financial. So, if the company does experience any major loss of revenue, then ultimately it could cause them to make decisions about possibly letting go of some senior leaders, and then of course that would create another restructure. So with regards to there potentially being some leaders who don't support the change, that is only going to be able to be remedied by them seeing the success when there is a stable environment, also using that guiding coalition to, help support those changes and help show the value in the goal. And then for the financial aspect, so there's a couple things. Financial planning is important, making sure that the company is prepared for certain situations. But COVID-19 is a great example of something that nobody was expecting, is lasting a lot longer than what was expected. So there are some changes that Banner Health instituted during the COVID-19 pandemic that could potentially be done again if needed. Some of those changes are the executive leaders took a temporary pay cut. 10% decrease in pay to help out. They also instituted a 2-week furlough for corporate employees, but they gave employees 5 months to take that time. So it wasn't like they said you have to take this next week. You could actually plan for the 2 weeks that you wanted to take off, and they said you can either use your paid time off or you can file for unemployment for 2 weeks. The choice is yours. So it really helped to soften the blow a little bit, where people were able to, plan time off and kind of plan accordingly how they were going to manage it financially. Uh, and then let's see. Oh yeah, they also offered unpaid sabbaticals for people. There were a lot of people who were struggling with having kids at home or taking care of people. And so they didn't offer paid sabbaticals, but they did offer people unpaid sabbaticals so that if they wanted to take a month off, they didn't have to worry about losing their job from doing that. So, those are things that help out with cost savings for the company, but ultimately, the goal would be to do everything possible to not have to lose any of our leaders. That being said, sometimes those plans aren't enough and change in leadership has to happen. Leaders have to be let go, and a restructure comes along with that. The biggest thing is just preparing for that, having those guidelines about what needs to be in place when those changes happen in order to keep things running efficiently, to keep people happy and secure, feeling secure in their jobs. That's super important. So, as far as lessons learned, as a leader, I definitely feel that servant leadership and conscious capitalism are so important. I can see the values in them, making sure that employees are really the center of the decisions. So if there is, a restructure that needs to happen, what can we do for the employees to, make this as smooth of a transition as possible? Change is constant, right? You just never know what's going to happen or what's going to need to take place, but you can make those decisions about change with the employees in mind. Um, I don't want to be a leader who makes changes regardless of what happens to the employees. I don't feel that that's responsible. I feel that it goes against the values of conscious capitalism and servant leadership. So I do feel that, there is a way where even if you need to make decisions that may have a negative impact, that you can do it in a way to minimize that as much as possible. And you do that by keeping the employees at the center of the decisions that you're making. Studies have really shown that, you know, organizational restructuring can have a negative impact on employees. And then when you do it frequently, that negative impact compounds and it's worse every time it happens, especially when it's happening in a short window. So I think it's very important to try and avoid that constant restructuring at any cost. And that concludes my topic for today. Thank you so much.